This is bad timing for the far left. Only 25% of Democrat voters view capitalism positively, but they aren't warming up to the idea of socialism, and that's the important distinction to make. They want opportunity, not ideology. They're frustrated, but not ready to throw the whole system out. And it's so interesting to me to watch the Democrat leaders scurry around. They are thinking about how this is going to go, what it looks like if they get behind, a socialist who many are calling a communist. If he loses, and I went on the record last week, Taylor, I'll just bring you up to speed and say I went on the record last week to say I think Cuomo is going to win. I think that the polls tightening, the margin of error, the people who are not talking about who they're going to necessarily vote for, and we're going to see an upset here because this is a city that is just not ready to embrace socialism or communism yet.
Oh, I don't know. I have so many thoughts. I spend a lot of time at home on my maternity leave, about 2 months, in a very deep red, tiny town, but in a big blue California state. And I think a lot of people came up to me and said, like, what are you guys doing in New York City? You people are lunatics. But they also followed it up with, you guys, you do you. Right? We're in our good red town. We're paying our bills. We're mowing our lawn. We're getting our kids off to school. We're living our lives. So if you want to implode in New York City, be my guest. So there's that push-pull where I agree with you, Jackie. It's sort of the Democrats looking at this of like, is this the path forward for 2028? What does this signify for the party? But I think there's a lot of other people out there who are, I think, viewing this as an isolated event. I don't know. I come with maybe good news. Unfortunately, I think the city was in decline before this moment. The good news is this won't be the moment, right? Maybe this moment already started. I was reading something that The Economist had put out. New York City's workers employed in finance and insurance, which used to be the blood of this city, down to just 7%. That was 12% back in the 90s, right? Of the 233,000 jobs created in that industry, finance and insurance in America in the last 5 years, they're not going to New York. No. They're going to Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia. And Dagan, I pulled this from Stephen Moore's letter that I thought you'd like. That vast new, great, beautiful skyscraper that I know you love so much from JP Morgan. They have more people employed in Texas than they do in New York. Yeah. So maybe, and I don't think this is good because I want to root for New York City. I'm like Kudlow. I don't like cities burning. I don't want to see us tear ourselves apart. But this moment, I think, started a few years ago, and this is just maybe accelerating it.
And I think you touched on something, and thank you for making that, crystal clear, that New York City is really strong. No matter what happens tomorrow and what the results are, we will get through it. We got through the pandemic, Dagan, and somehow we're all still here and we managed. But I think what Taylor's also touching on is that there is not really broader appetite for this in America. You might have a demographic shift that allows for it here in New York City, but others don't want this, which is why those insurance and finance jobs have flown the coop already.
I made a face when she mentioned the JP Morgan Tower.
I know you love it.
It was the, what's that smell? Yeah. Oh, God. The jobs that have come to New York have been from technology companies, the Facebooks, the Googles that have bought up vast amounts of real estate because they literally have money to burn. And so they've socked it into reskinning buildings along the West Side Highway, buying the old Chelsea Market that's part of the vast number of buildings that Google has bought up. So will those companies, cut workers here or move them elsewhere? So I was driving up 6th Avenue earlier this morning, and there was a Kalshi, the betting market site. There was an ad that was on a bus stop, and it was a kinetic ad. It was a digital ad. And it showed, and I was like, I don't know how you're selling your services, but it was the betting odds of Mondani versus Cuomo. And I thought, oh my God, it looked like a political ad. Because right now, I can't remember the exact number I saw, but right now the odds are 93% for Mondani versus 8% for Andy Cuomo. And I thought maybe that gets people to go out and vote for Cuomo.
But there's something weird about that because that's what it was 2 weeks ago. It hasn't moved at all. And I thought that those markets trade like almost like equity markets do when they move around. It almost seems bizarre to me, given the new polling information, that those numbers would remain static. I think the payout there is 10 to 1.
Right.
Yeah.
one other thing I wanted to add. If Mamdani wins, what will the people within the Democrat Socialists of America demand from him? Because they will come calling with their hands open and their arms open, ready to do a power grab of you're one of us, here's what we expect from you. Emptying the prisons, defunding the police. Their slogan still is seizing the means of production. So he is a socialist / communist. So anybody who votes yay Mamdani, that is what you're voting for.
Yeah, and
go ahead, because you've reported on this extensively.
Well, it's just that I've lived here for 45 years. I know the city pretty well. I was born here as well. But the point is, to your question, whether Cuomo can pull out a win with odds against him, I've run into a lot of people in Manhattan over the past weekend because there was early voting, and so many of them voted for Sliwa, for Curtis Sliwa. Yeah. So there is a big push. Curtis, of course, has no chance of becoming mayor. I mean, he will claim otherwise, of course, but I don't think he does when you look at the polls. And a lot of people, though, who are afraid of Mamdani and don't want him to be the mayor, just can't stand Cuomo for his record as governor of this state. The other thing I would mention is that while nationally socialism is growing among Democrats, there was a 32% leap since 2010, where 50% approved of it in 2010. Now 66% approve of it. But in that same time period, Democrats have lost a lot of registered voters. They've gone down about 10% in terms of, they had 31% of registered voters were Dems in 2010. It's now 28%. So a big drop, with the exception of New York City, because during the pandemic, and particularly during the riots that followed the pandemic, a lot of Republicans left this city. So in New York City, we're going against the trend in the United States as a whole of Democrats slimming down and Republicans gaining. Of course, the independents have gained the most. But New York is a very different place, particularly since the pandemic, because it was so affected by that and because of all the riots that happened here. So I'm afraid to say that I think Mamdani's the odds-on favorite in the way I look at it.
Okay.
I put my money there.
So say that's the case. We talked about the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs and how it could potentially impact markets. You know, this is the financial capital of the world.
Yeah.
How does that impact markets if indeed this is what we see? I said earlier, New York will survive and we'll get through it. Somehow we always do. Yeah. But is the stock market going to feel that way?
Well, 20 years ago, the centers of the financial world were New York and London. The trend has moved toward, seriously, Florida and Dubai. Money goes where it's treated best. And if Mamdani was elected, I think you're going to see that trend exacerbated. You're going to see more jobs in Dallas. You're going to see more jobs in Miami. You're going to see more money flow to Dubai. But the sad thing is, the NBC poll, 44% of Americans are positive on capitalism, only 25% of Democrats, and 35% of Democrats are positive on socialism. So on the one hand, if he gets elected, maybe you'll have a case study of why not to do it, and people will wake up, because we saw it in the 70s, what happened in New York. We saw it with Dinkins in the 90s, and maybe people need to see the results before they can change their mind.
80s Dinkins. 90s was Giuliani.
Yeah, 90s he came to speak to Columbia, and I fell asleep during the lecture. But this is not a positive trend. As it relates to the stock market, I think it'll be a blip. I think the decision on tariffs is going to be the critical decision this week with regard to the bond market. And as Dagan said before about interest payments too, remember, Powell has been 150 basis points too restrictive. So as that continues to come down, our interest servicing on the short end is going to come down. They've been refinancing a lot on the short end of the curve, but the fiscal responsibility on the long end of the curve is what we want. And we're getting that from tariffs, and we're getting that from record taxes due to growth and deregulatory policies. Atlanta GDP now, estimates for this quarter is 3.9% GDP growth. That brings in a lot of tax revenue because people are making money.
You bring up a good point. I'm also thinking, as I hear you speak about AI and the engine of capitalism that is fueling AI, but AI being used by the left as a tool to say this is why we need socialism, because it's going to eliminate jobs and people are going to need more help. I just put that out there as an open question. We've got an hour and a half to go.